jump right on in. All right, so a couple things we're going to cover today is how to tap into your current network. So, the current contacts that you have, how to invite them to join your email list, how to create some content to connect with new people and make some new friends and get them on your list, and then also how to promote your list intentionally. So just kind of thinking through these processes, considering what's going to be most helpful for you, and asking yourself some really good questions to help you build a strong email list so that you can really connect with people who want to know more about your services or your products or whatever you have to offer, right? All right, so first step, tapping into that current network. So this is something that often we don't think about. I know for me, it wasn't something that first came to mind. And so, but this is like your people who are most likely to join your list, most likely to help you grow it and support it and be excited and interested about what you have to say, right? So these are people who already have some kind of connection to you. So the first one is your current clients. So this is really great. A lot of times, you're working with someone, if they're a client or a customer, they're already bought into what you have to offer. And so there's a very, very good chance that they're going to want to know and learn more, right? So if you have a newsletter you're starting up, or maybe you're creating kind of like a mini course in your emails, or if you're just, wanting to promote some new things, reach out to those current clients. Say, hey, I'm building a list and I have some example language we can look at in just a minute, but talk to them about what you're doing and then personally invite them to join and be a part of it. The other thing you can do is reach out to those prospective clients. So if you have anyone who's on the fence or who, maybe just isn't quite sure if they're ready to commit, they're actually great to invite personally to your list. So something that you might say is, hey, I know we're still talking about, whether or not we're the right fit for your project. I've just started this new newsletter, or I've just started this new email list, and I'm going to be sharing X, Y, and Z that I think you would really enjoy and like, and it'll be completely free. So if they could kind of get to know you better, get to understand some more of your content and things like that, it can be super helpful. And then again, you can go back to previous customers. So if you've had people that you've worked with in the past and those projects have wrapped up, you can always reach back out, especially if you had a really great experience with them. They're probably going to want to hear about what you're offering or what you're doing or things like that, right? So reach back out to them and say, hey, I'm building this newsletter. I'm sharing these things. I think you would be really interested in it. I'd love it if you'd sign up and join. A couple other places you can reach out to are your networking communities, Facebook group, LinkedIn connections, and those are all kind of the same genre of people, right? So maybe people that you have some kind of connection to, but it's not necessarily super personal. It's still a great place to reach out. So for example, I'm a member of HeraHub, and so I could reach out into that group and say, hey, I'm just starting this new list. I'd love for you to join, or I'd love to get your feedback or something like that. Same with Facebook groups or connections, but with those ones, you want to be really thoughtful, right? So some Facebook groups don't allow you to promote yourself or any of your programs. Some of your networking communities may be similar to that. So make sure that you understand the guidelines and the rules in those groups so that you don't break them, right? So just reach out. And if you have maybe a couple specific connections within those groups, you could just reach out to them personally and say, hey, I'm building this list. I'd love for you to be a part of it. This is what I'm offering on it. And then throughout all of those, definitely encourage them to share with other people who may be interested in the same kind of content, right? So just kind of really tapping into the connections that you already have and reaching out past beyond what you already have there. So that's the first one, right? Your current network. So here's an example email, like I mentioned. So this is something that you might send to somebody, obviously with some links and to the sign up piece and all that kind of stuff. So it might say something like, hi, Mary, I hope you're doing well. I'm reaching out to let you know I'm providing a new free resource to small business owners. On Monday, I'll share the inaugural Monday Morning Fix. This weekly newsletter will include the latest WGS insights and helpful practical tips and tools for business owners and entrepreneurs looking for support with their digital marketing. I'm giving all of my clients early access. You can subscribe here. Please feel free to share this email and link with anyone you think might be interested. So, right, so it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, it's not overly fluffy. It's just saying, hey, I have this new resource. I think you'd like it. I'd love for you to join. or, sign up for it. Here's the link to sign up. So it can be really simple, really easy, but really helpful to be personal. So it doesn't mean you have to, sit down and if you have like 200 contacts, that could be a lot. But you could take this template, pop it into your email and then send it out to each person. And it may be something you have to just say, okay, is it worth the time? Maybe this is something your virtual assistant could do, or maybe this is something you just do over a period of time, right? You just say, if I've got, 200 people I want to email, let me email 10 or 20 or 15 or however many each day, and just kind of chunk it down to help you, make the most of it, right? You don't have to do it all at once, but those are some helpful tips to kind of get that ball moving, get it rolling. All right, so next, let's talk about just following some guidelines, right? So there's a lot of new privacy laws, and there's some specific guidelines. And also, you probably might have seen this with your email service. If you've been playing around with it, there's a lot of just extra pieces that we have to do to make sure that this is, followed correctly. So when sending these invitations, it's really important to use your personal email or like Gmail account. And you don't just automatically add these people to a list. So, don't automatically add them into your MailChimp or Flowdesk or Constant Contact list or whatever, because technically they haven't signed up yet, right? And so that would be breaking some of these laws and guidelines here. So that's why, again, it can take a little bit of time, but sending them that initial email, not only does it protect you from violating any guidelines, but it also helps you to actually have that personal connection, which is, more likely going to get them to sign up, right? If I personally reach out to you and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'd love for you to be a part of it, will you join me? As opposed to just kind of popping your name into a random list or, a random email and just sending it out. That could be for anybody. It's, I'm more likely to commit, especially if I know you, to do that if you're asking me personally, or at least what feels personal, right? So that can be a really helpful thing as well, but also it protects you from violating any guidelines. And then the other thing to do that's really helpful, not only to make sure that you're getting people on your list that are wanting to be there and are supposed to be there, setting up a double opt-in process when people sign up is really helpful. So what this does is so when someone signs up, they'll get an initial email that says, thank you for signing up. Are you sure you want to be added to this list? This helps protect your list from getting too many robots or, random emails. But it also helps to connect and follow these guidelines, right? So if people are saying, yes, I really do want to be added to this list, this tells the platforms, and it just kind of protects you in general, saying, yeah, they really want to be here. I didn't just buy this email off of the internet. So those are a couple things that you can do from the beginning to set yourself up for success, to help protect yourself and your list, right? You don't want to be violating people's privacy or having anything be really sketchy. The other thing too with these double opt-ins or opt-in emails is that you can make it personal, right? If you have a link to something, or if you have an offer you want to share, or, whatever it is, you can say, thanks for signing up, opt in here. And then when they opt in, you could send them maybe to a freebie or to a discount code or something like that, right? So there's some opportunities there to add some value too. So it doesn't have to feel like this tedious thing. And this is different than your welcome email. So you should still do a welcome email, but this would come before that. All right. The next one is connecting with strangers. So how do we make some new friends and add them to our list, right? So in previous webinars, I've talked a little bit about how to create freebies and offers and things like that. So, one option is to create a high value downloadable resource of some kind to promote on your social accounts or in other areas of your business and connections, and collect those emails from those new connections. So this could be something like, for example, I've done freebies with templates for social media calendars, or for content calendars, or how to create a freebie. I have one of those, right? So all of these different things that are going to be valuable to your audience and attract those new people and new emails. And again, you want to share that with your current connections, and then encourage them to share that beyond what you know and who you know. The second thing you can do is host a webinar. So something just like this, right? Something that's going to be valuable, something that people are going to have to register for, that is either free or low cost. And you can keep it really simple. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but having that registration process will help you to collect those emails, and it gives you an opportunity to create some connection with these people, right? So over 200 people now registered for these webinars, which is incredible. Most of them I don't know. And so it's, definitely helpful to have these webinars where I can interact with them to some capacity and share a little bit more about what I know and just make it more personable, right? So especially if you have the time and opportunity to host a webinar or something similar, it's a great way to connect with people. The last thing you could do, and this is just out of these three, there's so many other things that you could offer and do, is to offer a discount. So especially if you're, selling a product or something like that, you can offer a discount code. And so when someone signs up for your email list, the email that they get has that code. Or, it could be a discounted rate for a service, or maybe it's like a free audit, things like that. Anything that you can offer that's going to be valuable to your audience that will, that they'll be willing to exchange their email address and name and that information is super helpful. So just take some time to think about what people are going to be interested in, and then also what you can commit to, right? So I do these webinars every single week. I enjoy them. That's why I keep doing them. People find them helpful, but maybe you don't have the time to do all of that, or maybe that's not your strength. If you can create a beautiful guide or a beautiful, one-page, information sheet about something really valuable to your industry, those are a great way to really connect with people and offer them something of value. So a couple things there. You can definitely brainstorm, think of a million different things that you could do, but essentially anything that requires someone to give their email to you to get a valuable product or service from you is going to be a way to grow and connect with some of those people that you wouldn't otherwise know. All right, next, let's talk about your offer journey. So we talked about creating those offers, but this is the part where a lot of times it's like, okay, well, what do I do? If I have a freebie, if I have a webinar, if I have discounts, how do I set it up? So here's a really, really simple version of it. So just 4 steps. So the first step, obviously, is to create the sign up and opt-in system, right? So you have your freebie or your offer or whatever it is you're giving away. You're going to want to create your sign up within your service provider, right? So create that link, create the opt-ins, create your lists, all of that fun stuff. And now you want to share the offer. So whatever it is, promote it on your social channels, promote it in your networks, share it with everybody, tell as many people as you can, and then, they'll start to respond and send their emails, all that fun stuff. And then this is a really helpful part, is when you're setting everything up, make sure it's automatically adding them to your email list. So for example, if you have a freebie that you're giving to people, this is important to include, as a note and say, hey, when you sign up to collect this freebie, you will also be added to our email list. Sometimes you can do, a little checkbox. So if you have a landing page, you can say, do you want to be added to our mailing list to get, offers and updates, news, things like that. So make sure that it's apparent and clear that people are subscribing to that as well when they sign up for this freebie. But make sure on your back end, you already have that automatically set up. So for example, when people sign up for these webinars, when they're added to the webinar segment on my Flowdesk audience list, they're also added to the Monday Morning Fix, right? And so people ideally will know that when they're signing up, they'll see the little note. But sometimes they'll be like, oh, I just wanted the webinars and I'm going to unsubscribe from the, newsletter. And that's totally fine. So just make it easy for people to be able to understand what they're opting into, and then also to unsubscribe if they decide it's not for them. But having that automated is really, really helpful. And then that fourth piece is that welcome email. So once you have that, opt-in, you've shared that freebie, give it some time because you don't want to blow up their inbox, but maybe a couple days later or at the end of the day or something like that, you'll have a welcome email that just says, hey, welcome to the community. Welcome to, this space. We're happy you're here. Here's some information. Here's, other helpful tools or resources. And if you want to unsubscribe, you can unsubscribe here, right? Make it transparent, make it you, but invite people in and let them know you're happy that they're there. And all of that can be automated, right? So you don't have to go in and do all of that. So those are kind of the 4 steps to think through in your offer journey is, okay, once you have the freebie, you got to set up the sign-up system, set up how you're going to share it, make sure you're adding them to the correct lists, and then welcome them to the community. So those are some really, really important steps there. All right, next, let's talk about intentional promotion. So like I said, you can create a million beautiful things and have a great opportunity to connect with people and share these resources. But if you're not sharing it with them, how is anyone going to know what you have to offer, right? So the first obvious thing is to share on social media. This could be something that you share on all your channels or maybe a select few, but something that will catch people's eye, and then do it regularly, right? So these webinars happen weekly, which means I talk about them weekly, right? Because I want people who are already signed up to join me every week because they ask great questions and I love having you here. But also it lets people who maybe are not aware of them see that, right? If I only promoted them once a month or, once every other week, people are going to miss out on these opportunities. So make sure that you're creating a cadence of sharing your offer on a regular basis. If you have a downloadable freebie or maybe a discount, if you feel like once a week's too much for that, you could do once every other week. Or if you post a lot, sometimes you could do, a couple times a week in the mix of everything else. So just some helpful things, and you can be really smart about how you share it, right? So if you have a freebie that talks about how to create a social media, or if you have a freebie for creating a social media calendar, maybe one of your posts on social is about how to create that, calendar, and you say, hey, if you want a template, here's the link, right? So it doesn't always have to be, hey, download this thing or super salesy or promo-y. It could be, hey, I'm sharing this information. If you want something more, here's a link to download it, right? So that can be another way to kind of promote it in a helpful way that you're genuinely adding value and serving your audience. All right, the other thing to do is to ask your subscribers to share with others. So this could be a referral link. This could just be a little note in an email that says, hey, if you think someone else would love to know, what I've shared, forward this to them, or, something like that. A couple of things I really love are to include incentives. So like the Morning Brew and the Skim do this. I love what the Morning Brew does because they make it really fun and exciting, and you get kind of these different tiers. So if you, share a certain number of times, you can get a coffee mug, and in even bigger amount of times you can get a t-shirt, like all these different things, which maybe I know I don't need any of them, but it's fun to know, like, hey, if 15 people sign up, I'll get, this cool keychain or this great coffee mug or whatever. So if you have the capacity to do something like that and you really want to see your subscribers grow, that could be something worth looking into. And and that's promotion for them, right? The mugs that they're sending say Morning Brew on them, right? So if I'm drinking from that mug on a Zoom call and I'm talking to somebody and they say, what is that? That's, an opportunity for that company to get some more promotion. So you can even think of it that way, right? If you're like, is it worth it? If it's something that's really great that you think people will use often, it's another great opportunity to share about your business. So just a little side tip there. And then the other thing too is create that intentional content. So make sure that your emails, when you're sending them out, are really thoughtful and really meet what you are promising your subscribers, right? I know this is something that I've really struggled with recently just because I do this all the time. And I have been doing these webinars and, the promotional stuff for them and my newsletters for months now. And so it's really easy for me to get kind of lazy with them, right? And to not necessarily think about it and just kind of let it become a routine. And so even the last couple of weeks, I've had to really sit down and be like, okay, let me focus on this. Let me make sure the content I'm providing is what my subscribers want to see and want to hear and listen to and whatever. And so just make sure that you're constantly asking yourself that question, putting yourself in their shoes, thinking about who's subscribing to your list and is, what you're offering meeting their expectations and their needs. So just a couple ways to intentionally promote your newsletter. All right, now we've got the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I know we have a few. You can also put them in the Q&A box. And if you're on Clubhouse with me, you can raise your hand and I guess we'll get to hear your voice, but that'll be super fun. So, all right, the first one. Okay, so we answered, oh, that's great. So we answered your first question throughout the process. Wonderful. All right, where can I find the template for the content for social media? I can send that out in the follow-up email and just make sure that you guys have that. Okay, another quick question. So if you are hosting a webinar like this and people register through Zoom, do you add them to your email list since they provided your email? Yes, so great question. And this is something, hopefully you guys have seen it. If not, feel free to go check back on the Zoom page. But I've added just a little sentence on the registration page that says when you sign up, you are also subscribing to the newsletter. And so so logistically what happens is when the webinar ends, I take the attendance sheet and it has all of the information and I put it into Flowdesk and I add them to my segment for digital marketing mini sessions, right? Because they want the recording, they want all the information, all that stuff. And I send that out. And then I have an automation set up where anyone who's added to that segment is then also added to the Monday Morning Fix segment. And so that means they'll get that and everything. So the key there though, and especially, and this is something, they've really kind of is important to do now with the new guidelines and things like that, is to make sure that you have it listed somewhere that says, hey, you're subscribing to both of these things. And so most people don't mind. A couple people will unsubscribe and that's totally fine. But as long as you make it easy for someone to unsubscribe or, opt in or out of things, that's kind of the key there. So yeah, just making sure you have it apparent and relevant for them there. Okay, another great question. I have connected Eventbrite to MailChimp. I need to add this line. Yes, so and this is something relatively new that is kind of still going through the work. So these new guidelines, and a lot of it is just kind of covering your own liabilities and things like that. I'm sure most of you are not selling people's data and it really is genuinely protecting their privacy, but anywhere that you are going to be collecting people's information and adding them to a list or to any kind of newsletter or any kind of marketing, anything, make sure that you just have some type of line that says, hey, when you sign up for this, you are also opting into X, Y, and Z. The best thing to do when possible is to have a landing page that really gives them the opportunity to click to opt in or out of something. That's not always the case. Sometimes with, if you're connecting these different platforms, but that can just be really helpful. So when in doubt, just think, okay, is it clear that they're going to be opting into my email list? If the answer is no, if it's not clear, then find a way to really make that apparent and helpful to them. Great questions, you all. Okay. So let's see, we got another one. Personally. So, but I have folks sign up for my website. Is it best to send a personal email afterwards, automatically set up? And should I do a double check-in for them to sign up for saying receive my blogs? So yes. So what I would do is have it automatically set up so that when someone signs up for your blogs, for example, to get those every time you post, have it automatically set up where they'll opt in. So they'll get that email that says, yes, I definitely want to receive these. Because the other thing that this does is it tells their address book that they add you as a contact, right? So I definitely want to opt into this. So it reduces the likelihood that you're going to end up in their promotions tab. But then also I would say, maybe give it 30 minutes and then send that welcome email that says, hey, thank you so much for signing up. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited you've, signed up for this. Here's some information, that kind of stuff. So you want to minimize the amount of emails you're sending people. But especially when it comes to data privacy, a lot of times it can be helpful to, have just that one or two follow-up that says, hey, you sure you want to opt in? Yes, great, awesome. And then a second email that says, so glad you're here. Welcome. Here's some helpful tips. Great follow-up question. Okay. And you can auto delay and sending a welcome email. Correct. Yeah. So you can automatically, most systems will allow you to automatically delay when you send an email. So in MailChimp, for MailChimp and in Flowdesk, but in Flowdesk specifically, they call it a workflow. So you can create a workflow that says, okay, when someone's added to this segment or audience, we're going to wait 20 minutes, 2 hours, 30 days, whatever, and then send them this email. And most of the especially popular email system provider or service providers have that same option where you can say, okay, when this happens, when someone signs up for this, wait this amount of time and then send this. And then once they do that, you can wait this amount of time and then send this. So that can definitely be a helpful tool. Great questions. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Ooh, okay, great. So is there anything else? Okay, great question. Is there an easier way to send bulk email asking for an opt-in, something from HubSpot? Because I have been adding people to my HubSpot for the past few months now. So that's a good question. I'm not as familiar with HubSpot. I know it's both the CRM and an email service provider, kind of 2-in-1. So I don't, take my answer with a grain of salt, but if you are just adding people who are clients to your email list, I would first send them something that says, hey, do you want to be added to the email list? So for example, let's say you have a new client that's being added to your CRM in HubSpot. You could set it up so that when they're added, you can send them an email that says, hey, by the way, I have this regular newsletter. Would you like to sign up for it? And then give them the option to opt in. So that could be one way to do it. So I'm not 100% sure with HubSpot, but I'm sure there's a way to set it up. Okay. Other question. Do you do a double opt-in when people sign up for these webinars or other events, or just when they sign up via your website for landing page? So great question, Tammy. So if anyone signs up directly through Zoom, it doesn't do a double opt-in. I'll have to double check how I've set it up. That's a great question, but it should only do it when I've added them to my Flowdesk, right? So once you're opted into that, then it should be sending this double opt-in. But I've recently updated that, so I'm going to have to double check that and make sure that it's all there. Typically, it's going to be when you're adding someone to your email service provider. And because of the way I have things set up, I'm having people sign up through Zoom first and then adding them to my email service provider. And so it kind of comes as like a second piece to it. So it's a great question. That's something I definitely want to make sure I have set up properly too. Technology, crazy stuff. Great questions, you guys. All right, let's see. Awesome. Okay, well, we are almost at 5 o'clock, so let's do a little bit of wrap up. As always, though, you can reach out to me via email. I'm happy to answer any more questions that you may have. So for next week, we're going to talk about how to re-engage your email list. So if you have a current email list, or if you have a list of contacts that you have kind of left alone, maybe you've been collecting them for a while, but you haven't really done anything. We're going to talk about how to re-engage and connect with them and really make sure that you are utilizing those contacts. The other two announcements I wanted to share was I'm still doing free website audits. So if you have a website and are just curious, what you can do to improve it or how it's functioning, or just want to get the, marketing and designer eye on it, I'll have a link in the follow-up email for you to sign up for a free audit, just a quick little video that I go through your site and say, hey, here's what I think is great. Here's what I think, could be improved, all that fun stuff. And then if you want to work with Flowdesk for your email service provider, you can save 50% off of it. And I have a link for that, and I'll put that in the follow-up email. I use Flowdesk and have been loving it. So if you have questions about it, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But yeah, so overall, it's pretty much the announcements. Pretty simple, pretty quick. I'm so glad you guys joined me this week, and I hope I will see you back here again. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.